I got chills, man. I got chills. See, Thorfinn, your body is saying it wants to live. I was waiting for this scene so heavily within the last episode. Didn't quite get there, but the beginning of this episode, actually, it's kind of the pre-credit tag. This actually happens before the opening credits. As we get this moment where Snake shows up onto the scene and he swings his sword at Thorfinn, and then just instinctively, even though moments ago Thorfinn was saying, look, go ahead and kill me. I don't care if I live or die. Kill me instead of Einar. It doesn't matter. Nothing good has ever come from living. And I believe that Thorfinn believes in that moment that he's telling the truth. I think Thorfinn truly doesn't see a purpose for living, doesn't see a future for himself, doesn't see how he can go on from where he's been and where he's at right now, and truly doesn't care if he lives or dies. But I talk about this sometimes when I talk about Vagabond or Vinland Saga, you can see them both behind me, is that there's this idea of the calm state where you are sort of in this heightened state of adrenaline where you are reacting on instinct rather than logic and ration. And I think that's what happens when you are put in these extreme life or death situations, and your body, your human body, your vessel is always trying to live. Every cell in your body, its job is to keep you alive as long as possible. And it doesn't matter what you think, even though, negative thoughts can affect the body. This is true. But in a general sense, your body is always trying to survive. That's the purpose of it. It's like we are living and we want to continue living, whether we realize it or not, whether we want to continue living or not, our body does, and that's what it's here to do. And so when Thorfinn is put into this extreme situation where this blade would kill him, and I think as far as Snake goes, I don't think Snake was expecting to kill Thorfinn. Now, would that blow have killed Thorfinn if it connected? Absolutely. But Snake, being the kind of man that he is, saw something in Thorfinn and knew that Thorfinn would get out of the way. He knew he had the capacity to do it, and I think that's why Snake was willing to throw a killing blow, and just instantly Thorfinn dodges it and follows up with a counterattack, and that moment is like this spark that is just going to ignite this fire within Thorfinn. I love this moment so much because it shows that there is something within you that wants to survive, and whatever that thing is, that's what we need to find, and that's what we need to hold on to. That's what we need to embrace, and like that spark, that's what we need to continue feeding the fire of. That's what we need to put the wood under the fire to continue to ignite and make it as large as possible, because as much as that flame goes down, it's never out 100%. And I think that is a very powerful message to show, not just in Vinland Saga, but just to think about in life in general. So if you're ever in that moment, if you're ever in that headspace, I know you've probably never been to war as a Viking and then never been a slave. Maybe you have. If you have done those things, wow. But if not, I think that we can still kind of relate this to our own lives in many ways, and find that if we are put into that position, that extreme calm state position where our body takes over, we will realize that there is an instinctive desire to continue living no matter what is currently happening in our current situation, and by living and by continuing forward and by using the hardships of our lives and our past, we can not only help ourselves, but maybe help other people, maybe make things better as time goes on. And it's just it's a powerful message. It's a wonderful scene. And I love that moment so much. Now, the rest of this episode does something really interesting that isn't quite in the manga. Again, for the anime onlys out there that happen to be watching these videos, first of all, welcome. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. But I'm not going to spoil anything moving forward for you guys. So I'm only going to talk about what happened in the episode and also maybe compare it to how the scenes played out in the manga. So that's about it. But when it comes to the continuation of this episode, we focus on Thorfinn and Einar. We don't cut to anybody else on the farm. We don't follow Snake. We don't cut away to anyone else. We focus on Thorfinn and Einar. And I think that's a good thing. I think because we are only in episode 4, we really need to focus on the dynamic of these two characters, because they are essentially the two main characters of this arc. Einar is still a new character as far as the anime is concerned, so I think that we need to spend more time with them. Remember, the first 4 episodes of season 1 we spent with Thor's, when Thorfinn was still a itty-bitty child, so I think it makes sense to continue. But one thing they do a little bit differently here in this episode than in the manga is dealing with Thorfinn's dream sequence. That dream sequence is not in the manga. Thorfinn has a lot of dreams and nightmares and haunting, being haunted by the past and that sort of thing. But we don't get into quite as in-depth imagery as we do of this dream sequence. And I thought this was pretty fantastic. Not only are we reflecting back on Thorfinn as a child, but we're also getting those moments of Thorfinn going through his kills. We see his kills as a child. And I also noticed they used the same animation of Thorfinn killing the guards on the I forget, it was the French stronghold, whatever it was, with the big fat Frenchman dude. When Thorfinn was up on the top, where Askeladd said that if you bring me this particular guy's head, then I'll give you your duel. And we see basically the same animation happening, the same fluid animation, except it's in this kind of nightmaric, dark, brutal vision where instead of seeing the characters as they were, they're kind of like these ghost-like, all black, images of who they were. And as Thorfinn goes for the beheading, which he actually did, it cuts to the woman that took Thorfinn in when he got washed up on the river. She took him in. She combed his hair. She covered for him when the guard came looking for him. And then Thorfinn still rang the signal for Askeladd's group to come in and started to burn down the village. And he had that eye contact moment with the lady that just looks at him like, why? Why this innocent looking child, this person I put on, my neck out to protect, he turned on all of us. He was this sort of demon child that everyone said he was. And I really like moments like that. I really like delving into, first of all, it makes it feel so much more consistent from season 1, especially seeing the same kind of fluidity to the animation. Also makes us remember those moments and makes everything kind of come together. I thought the animation actually in this episode was done really well. There's a lot of great Einar reaction images. There's the one of him thinking about Arnid, which is hilarious. And then there's also the moment where he stands over Thorfinn in the barn. And this moment happens in the manga, but it's a little bit different. I don't believe Einar actually gets down and starts choking Thorfinn, because the whole idea here is that Einar, he hates warriors because he's had to experience this, and that's the reason why he's here, is because he's seen the darkness of them. He's never experienced it as a warrior. He's only experienced it as a victim. And so he was with Thorfinn, and I don't know if they've done enough yet to be considered friends, but he's really the only other person on this farm that Einar has to talk to. Nobody else really cares. We get to meet Patter, I think, the main farmhand guy. He's a pretty chill dude, but Einar is working with Thorfinn, so he's the only person that he has to communicate with. They're doing the same job. They're working in the same area. He's a coworker, right? He's a coworker that becomes a friend, that becomes a best friend. But right now, he's just a coworker. And, Thorfinn never mentioned this. And seeing this firsthand, he kind of feels betrayed. Because, they are, like I said, they're not really friends yet. But it's we've been doing this together. We've been working together for days, and this never came up, and I've already told you how much I hate warriors and what they've done to me and what they did to my village and my family. And so it's sort of this secret he's been keeping. And when Thorfinn just admits it without, just in a very bland, matter-of-fact kind of way, it just pisses Einar off. And so that night, Einar just goes down to choke him out. And I love the animation when they did it. I love the frames of Einar's face, and just you can see the rage and grief in his emotions and everything. I thought it was done very, very well. But like the manga, instead of going all the way through, Thorfinn starts having his nightmare, and Einar just wakes him up, and like normal. And then, of course, the two of them kind of separate, and Thorfinn just says thank you, which is such a weird response for Einar in this moment, because in any other time, before today, before learning these secrets about Thorfinn, he just would have said, "You're welcome, man. It's all right. Do something about those nightmares, But now it's yeah, whatever, Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. And I get that feeling. I get that emotion, learning something about someone that just truly changes the way that you think about them. But at the same time, that person, Thorfinn, hasn't done anything to Einar personally to make him dislike him. So it's a matter of Einar's ability to be able to forgive, and Thorfinn dealing with the fact of, this kind of confliction of do I actually want to live? Do I not want to live? but both of them are stuck here. They're both still slaves. They both just still have jobs to do. So neither of them can really explore and expand and try to figure themselves out because they're forced in the situation, which makes the storytelling really good. I love when you kind of like force characters to be in a location together because they can't escape the farm. And clearly we found out, in the last 2 episodes, there's a bunch of bodyguards on the farm that are pretty skilled, especially Snake. So escape is futile. And so what do? So you're trapped together, right? You got a warrior on one hand, you've got a victim of warriors on the other. Go play, go be friends. It's such a great dynamic. So yeah, I love this episode. This was great. This is fantastic. And preview for the next episode, this isn't a spoiler because it's in the preview. We're getting Canute, baby. Canute is coming back the next episode. I cannot wait to catch up with Canute. It will probably be a completely full of episode of Canute and his exploits and everything that he's been up to. And if you are anime only, the things that Canute has been up to are fucking crazy. So I just can't wait to get into it. Also, Thorkel was in the preview. So I'm excited to see him back as well. But yeah, man, I love this episode. It really it hit the emotional beats very well to me. I like the animation, I like the callbacks, and just the feeling of it. So this was great. I'm so excited. We still have like 20 more episodes to go, man. This is fantastic. So let me know what you thought about Vinland Saga Season 2, Episode 4 down below in the comments. Let me know your thoughts, feelings, ideas on it. Go ahead and like the video if you enjoyed it to help it in the algorithm, as well as comments will help it too. And subscribe if you want to stick around and see more Vinland Saga reviews. Also, I do have a Patreon and channel memberships turned on if you want to support the channel on that extra level. And if you want to pick yourself up a motherfucking Zod shirt, my link to my merch store is also down below. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.